Introduction to my martial arts skills. I traveled to Wei County, Beifeng County, Qianguo and became the last Taoist in Qingyun Temple. This Taoist technique is a bit difficult to practice, and Li Yanchu only wants to meditate and refine pills, in order to cultivate immortality successfully as soon as possible. Except for a black donkey, there is no surplus wealth in Kedao Temple. Li Yanchu, who wanted to eat well, had to put on a finger tiger, pick up a pig-killing knife, and do things to ward off evil spirits for others. Little Taoist, this thing is not working for me, the ghost sneered. In the next moment, the ghosts will fly and disappear. I made this from lightning-struck wood, soaked in black dog blood. Li Yanchu discovered that killing ghosts can earn merit and improve the quality of all things through Imperial edicts. Years later, Li Yanchu passed by a remote mountain village filled with resentment, which was a place of great calamity. Xianmen magic is greatly suppressed here. Faced with the old ghost in the village, Li Yanchu smiled slightly and said, "Fortunately, I'm a bit skilled." Chapter 1. Did you hit a ghost? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Wei County, Beifeng Commandery, Qian State. A dilapidated Taoist temple. On the plaque, you can vaguely see the three big characters of Qingyun Temple. The Eastern Dawn. Dong. 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 Li Yanchu, who had not yet woken up, heard a hurried knocking on the door. Li Daochang, help me. An anxious voice came from outside the door. As the only Taoist in Qingyun Temple, Li Yanchu is somewhat unfamiliar with this kind of voice. When the old Taoist was still around in the early years, there were occasional people coming to visit. Usually, there is something wrong at home and something strange happens. Li Yanchu quickly got out of bed, put on the Taoist robe, and walked towards the door. Dong! 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 The knocking on the door remained rapid. "Here we go," Li Yanchu shouted. After removing the latch and opening the door, a hint of surprise flashed in Li Yanchu's eyes. Standing outside were 4 or 5 young men dressed up, led by a more steady-looking young man who anxiously said, "Li Daochang, the villain belongs to the Qin family." When something happened at home, he specifically invited Li Daochang to come and help. "Come and live." Li Yanchu's eyes lit up and he asked, "What's going on?" The steady young man glanced around at the words and whispered, "Li Daochang, why don't you come with me? You'll know when you get to the mansion." The whole thing is quite mysterious. Li Yanchu nodded and said, "Wait a moment." After speaking, he turned around and returned to the room. Li Yanchu only had 13 copper coins all over his body, so he was so poor that there was no reason why he didn't take on any work. "My life is gone, I can start over in the next life. Without money, I am not willing to die. Go back and put on the Taoist robe, carry a peachwood sword on your back, and put on a few golden light talismans, all of which were left by the old Taoist master for you." After thinking about it, Li Yanchu still took out the things under the pillow. A pair of wooden tiger fingers, held in his arms, and a sharp pig-killing knife pinned to his waist. Dressed up properly, he quickly walked to the gate and hurried towards the Qin family with several of their servants. On the way, Li Yanchu asked in a low voice what had happened. Chen Yuan, the head of the household, saw no one around and whispered to Li Yanchu about the situation. Upon hearing these words, Li Yanchu was immediately shocked. His gaze also showed a hint of contemplation. The Qin family is a wealthy local businessman with considerable assets. Mr. Chen is only 50 years old and has been away for many years. There are 2 sons and 1 daughter under the knee. This time, it was the 3rd miss of the Qin family who had an accident. "No wonder this guy speaks in a secretive manner," Li Yanchu said in his heart. The 3rd miss of the Qin family fell ill at home, her language was crazy, like madness. The room often heard the laughter of men, but when she entered, only the 3rd miss was there. "Why is this like being entangled by a pervert?" Li Yanchu said in his heart. A year ago, he traveled to a place called Qian State, similar to ancient feudal society. The third young lady of the Qin family was entangled by a pervert, with disheveled clothes and crazy speech, making it difficult for the men in the family to approach. So the Qin family immediately brought in Taoist monks to practice. What Li Yanchu didn't understand was why the Qin family didn't go to those famous Taoist temples in the city, but instead came to find themselves. Are you afraid of spreading it, which would be detrimental to Miss San's reputation? Li Yanchu thought to himself. It wasn't until Li Yan first met the butler of the Qin family and had a few conversations with him that he suddenly realized. Plus myself, now it's the fourth wave of outsiders coming. But, without exception, those high monks and Taoists who claim to have great magical power in their daily lives. Everything was knocked out of Miss Chen's room. The clothes were shattered and frightened quite a bit. The butler of the Qin family, who had seen Li Yanchu's master in his early years, knew that he was a capable Taoist. I quickly sent someone to invite the only successor of the old Taoist, Li Yanchu. It can also be considered a dead horse as a living horse doctor. Although there were no high expectations for Li Yanchu in my heart, the butler of the Qin family was very polite and did not have any bloody scenes. Li Daochang, the commanding officer, is a skilled expert who I have seen before. This time, Miss has encountered evil, and I hope that Li Daochang can help. I will definitely thank you after the incident. As the butler of the wealthy Qin family, Chen Butler naturally has a good way of dealing with people. First, lift Li Yanchu up high and show enough courtesy. Li Yanchu sighed, as expected, no one is simple in such a wealthy family. Steward Chen, please be polite. I will do my best, said Li Yanchu. Soon. He followed Butler Chen to the backyard. The Qin family's wealth and prosperity pattern has its own grandeur, but it has not made Li Yanchu lose his composure. After all, he has also seen high-rise buildings in his past life, and he still has this determination. It was Chen Butler who saw Li Yanchu so calm, and his evaluation of him was even higher in his heart. In the backyard where Miss 3 lives, there are wudong trees and crabapple flowers. The environment is quiet. At this moment, Lady Chen, the mother of Miss San, anxiously waited in Miss San's building with the company of a maid. His expression was anxious, with a strong melancholic expression between his eyebrows. Mrs. Chen is a charming and graceful woman with an elegant temperament and a charming charm. Madam, this is what I have mentioned to you about, Master Xuanqing's disciple, Master Li. Chen, the butler, introduced Li Yanchu. Xuanqing is the Taoist name of Master Li Yanchu. Madam Chen lowered her jaw and said to Li Yanchu, I'll take care of you, Miss Li. As a mother, her anxiety at this moment cannot be expressed to outsiders. Seeing this young Taoist, I was somewhat disappointed, but at this moment, I was also in a hurry to seek medical attention. Let's give it a try. Li Yanchu saw Mrs. Chen's gaze, and he knew from Yu reading that she felt young and looked down upon her. But he doesn't care, it's just human nature. He won't make any radical reactions for his own temper. With a slight chin, Li Yanchu turned around and walked up to the second floor. This is an independent small building, with maids living on the first floor and Miss San living alone on the second floor. At this time, the servants are outside and dare not go up. After all, things that involve ghosts and monsters are what ordinary people fear the most. The first few were all beaten up, so this ghost shouldn't be very fierce. Li Yanchu took a deep breath and walked up with a firm gaze. In the room on the second floor, the laughter of a woman could be heard. Crisp, pleasant to the ear, with a hint of elegance. Listening makes people feel a bit moved. Exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Li Yanchu calmed his mind and pushed open the door to walk in. This guy has reached a crazy point in order to make money. As soon as I stepped into the door, I smelled a refreshing fragrance. The furnishings in the room are very elegant, exuding a delicate touch of a daughter's home. On the big bed sat a young woman with disheveled clothes. Goose egg face, long eyelashes, delicate facial features, fair skin. This is Miss Chen from the Chen family. Chen Luoxin. When Li Yanchu came in, Miss Chen's situation was even more serious than before, and her clothes began to be disheveled. The collar is half open, making people unable to move their eyes. Her face was rosy, her eyes were blurred, and she smiled foolishly. Eyes full of admiration, facing into the void. It's as if there's a man standing there whom I admire. The whole scene is inexplicably eerie and incongruous. Chapter 2. Lightning strikes a wooden tiger and kills pigs with a knife. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Miss San. Li Yanchu tentatively asked. Miss Chen looked at Li Yanchu with a silly smile and even licked her lips, an indescribable allure. Li Yanchu shook his head and then called out, Miss San. Miss Chen's clothes slipped off at this moment, revealing her fragrant shoulders like condensed fat, vividly portraying a beautiful and charming woman. But her eyes were filled with disgust, and the man's deep voice came out of her mouth. Get out. The temperature in the room suddenly dropped, inexplicably eerie. This is under control. Li Yanchu frowned and stared at the cold-looking third miss in front of him, saying, Wait a minute, I'm a bit inexperienced in business. As he spoke, he took out a small bottle from his pocket. With a bang, the wooden cork was pulled open and 2 drops of transparent liquid were dropped onto the eyes while looking up. Miss Chen, the third lady of the Chen family, seemed to feel that the young Taoist was somewhat interested and didn't rush to take action. She looked at him with ease. Li Yanchu blinked his eyes and looked over again. At this moment, the scene in my eyes has changed. In the originally empty boudoir, there were only Miss Chen and Li Yanchu from the Chen family. But at this moment, Li Yanchu saw a tall and handsome young man standing beside Miss Chen San. However, this young master was dressed in very fancy clothes, and his face seemed to be covered in powder, which was inexplicably eerie and gloomy. Her gaze was full of lasciviousness, and her lips were bright and full of lust. Can you leave, this one? Li Yanchu said politely. The little Taoist has some tricks, you can see me now, the young master in brocade said with a smile. Then his face darkened. At the same time, Miss Chen, who was disheveled and half revealing her fragrant shoulders, and this gloomy and eerie young man in brocade, said in the same tone, Get out. In a daze, Li Yanchu seemed to see a gust of dark wind and a surge of black energy in the room. That's just not something to talk about. Li Yanchu took out the talisman from his arms and pinched it between his fingers. After thinking for a moment, he quickly put it back into his arms. Calmly put on the wooden finger tiger and gave a faint smile to the lustful demon in the brocade robe. This lecherous pervert with powder on his face and lewd eyes couldn't help but laugh. Little Taoist, that kind of thing is not of much use to me. He is telling the truth, only mystical spells can deal with ghosts. Ordinary attacks, also known as physical attacks, are useless against ghosts. Really? Li Yanchu smiled and said, How do you know if you don't try? The genie Lushan looked at the young Taoist with mockery, his gaze full of disdain. He is another deceitful fake Taoist. He moved like a gust of wind and appeared directly in front of Li Yanchu. Prepare to pull him out directly. But the next moment. Ah! Li Yanchu punched the chin of the luster in the brocade clothes, and there was a faint thunder and lightning. The colorful ghost in the brocade clothes suddenly let out a scream of agony, piercing through his heart. Li Fa is the most powerful force in heaven and earth, which suppresses ghosts and monsters extremely severely. The ghost energy inside the body of the genie Lushan ghost was suddenly disrupted by this punch, and there was a brief pause. Without hesitation, Li Yanchu punched him again in the eye frame. Make a clean and decisive move with full force. Click. A lightning spark lit up, and the colorful ghost in the brocade followed with a scream of agony, falling to the ground in pain. The ability of ghosts to come and go like the wind is completely suppressed under this pure yang thunder technique. Ah! 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 The genie luster ghost was pinned to the ground by Li Yanchu, constantly being beaten, and the screams in his mouth became increasingly weak. What exactly is going on? What the hell is this? Exclaimed the colorful ghost in terror. Li Yanchu was very stable and didn't pretend to be forced. He said calmly, "This is called finger tiger, it's made of lightning-struck wood. Lightning-struck wood is an important raw material for Taoist crafting tools. It contains the power of extreme yang and hardness, and after being struck by lightning, it also contains a trace of thunderous power." Lightning struck with the gaze of the lustful ghost in the brocade robe showed a look of shock. This guy is so gloomy. He knows how powerful lightning strikes wood. But who knew it was made into this ghostly appearance? No, not pure lightning struck wood. The lustful ghost had no resistance and its ghostly aura was constantly weakened. That's right, I also soaked in black dog blood. Li Yanchu smiled slightly and then punched him again. After the pervert was almost lifeless after being smashed, Li Yanchu stood up and pulled out the 2-foot-long pig-killing knife from his waist. The pig-killing knife, also known as the blade of killing industry, has evil energy on it that can restrain evil spirits. Usually kept at home for the purpose of warding off evil spirits. Li Yanchu picked up the pig-killing knife and started cutting with his hands. In the incredulous gaze of the pervert, he chopped it with a knife. A highly skilled pervert was beaten to death by a physical attack like this. The body became illusory and dissipated into the air. Continuing. A grand and majestic sound echoed in Li Yanchu's mind. Imperial decree. 300 merits. The sound of the Grand Avenue quickly fades like a tide. Li Yanchu was momentarily stunned. Merit. The Huangting Daojing also mentions the concept of merit, but it is only a mysterious thing. All living beings in the world have the opportunity to obtain merit. It's just that there is a divine will in the underworld, and ordinary people are not allowed to glimpse the mysteries of heaven. In an ordinary life, there is finally a hint of cheating. I carefully sensed it and haven't noticed any changes in my body yet. reading www.uukangshu.net. Just. The most important thing now is to do a good job in exorcism. After being killed by Li Yanchu, the third miss of the Qin family regained clarity in her eyes, but her body felt weak and she collapsed softly on the bed. Li Yanchu inserted a pig-killing knife into his waist, took off the tiger and placed it in his arms, tidied up his Taoist robe, and restored his appearance as a serious Taoist. Then he stepped forward to check Miss Chen's condition and briefly touched her pulse. Open Miss Chen's eyelids and take a look. People with evil spirits will have black shadows on the white areas of their eyes, which can be detected by careful examination. Of course. Like under the armpit, there will also be a hard lump in the middle of the chest. In a situation like Miss Chen's, the black shadow in her eyes has faded a lot, which is a manifestation of the dispelling of evil spirits. The next step is just to take good care of yourself and it will be fine. Ordinary people, after encountering evil spirits, are only weak for a few days and their luck is bleak for a few days. Severe cases can be life-threatening. It is not an exaggeration to say that if it were not for Li Yanchu's intervention and allowing the perverts to continue, the life of Miss Chen from the Qin family would have been difficult to guarantee. The yin energy of ghosts is incompatible with the yang energy of living people. People who are possessed by ghosts and entangled with them are those whose body's yang fire is suppressed by yin qi. Over time, their bodies will naturally collapse. Li Yanchu helped Miss Chen San to rest on the bed. Then he went downstairs and told everyone about the successful exorcism. Mrs. Chen was overjoyed and sent someone to invite the doctor to prescribe a prescription for tonifying qi and warming health for Miss San. And I greatly thank Li Yanchu. No one expected this seemingly young Taoist to have such skills. Chapter 3. Imperial Edict. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mrs. Chen held a banquet to thank Li Yanchu. And give 100 taels of silver as a reward. According to the exchange system of Qianguo, 101 is 1 coin, and 10 coins are 1 or 2. The Qin family directly gifted 100 taels. Equivalent to a modern bonus of over 300,000 yuan. Prior to this, Li Yanchu's savings were only 13 yuan. And the yamen servants in the yamen only earn 2 coins a month, making it even more difficult for ordinary people to save money. Li Yanchu leapt to become a wealthy man with a small fortune. Sure enough, people still need to have true abilities, Li Yanchu said in his heart. For my master, I have a little more respect in my heart. If it weren't for my master teaching me skills, I wouldn't have had today. After Li Yanchu received this huge sum of money, he immediately bought a few bottles of good wine and went to his master's grave for worship. I talked incessantly for a while before leaving. Now that you have money, you can go to the pharmacy to see the medicinal herbs of Guiyuan pill, Li Yanchu said in his heart. The Huangting Dao Jing, passed down by the master, is extremely difficult to practice, difficult to enter, difficult to practice, and difficult to achieve. But for Li Yanchu, having a way to cultivate martial arts is not bad, so he can pick and choose. In the Huangting Dao Jing, there is a prescription called Guiyuan Dan. It can increase the speed at which practitioners absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and improve their cultivation level. But the materials recorded above are really too rare. They are all precious medicinal herbs. This Taoist pill is extremely precious and cannot be compared to ordinary pills in the martial arts world. If it weren't for Qingyun Temple, it would be a legitimate branch of the orthodox path. There won't be such a rare elixir either. I have money now. What Li Yanchu most wants to do is to purchase the materials for the Guiyuan pill. If one can refine the returning yuan pill, then one's cultivation will definitely be able to take it to the next level. Li Yanchu is very excited about this. It wasn't until Li Yanchu arrived at the pharmacy and asked about several medicinal herbs of the Guiyuan pill that he understood why this prescription had declined. It takes 100 years of heat to make medicinal herbs, and even if you have money, you can't buy them. And some of the medicinal herbs have now disappeared. No wonder there are so few people practicing Taoism in the world, and the cultivation of immortal spirit pills is even rarer. Li Yanchu sighed and said. Li Daochang, who carries 100 taels of silver, surprisingly cannot buy the materials for refining pills. Under the enthusiastic recommendation of the salesperson, Li Yanchu actually bought back several medicinal herbs for the 10 complete tonic soup. It can strengthen the mind and body, replenish qi and blood. Returning to Qingyun Temple, Li Yanchu set up a stove and prepared to boil medicine. As soon as I opened the mulberry paper, a refreshing fragrance of grass and wood rushed towards me. There are many tonics here, such as ginseng, which is of course very fine and of extremely poor quality. Even so, it is still valuable. If this is aged-old ginseng, that would be great, Li Yanchu said in his heart. Remembering the sound of the Tao that came to mind after killing a pervert in the Qin family. Li Yanchu smiled slightly and his heart moved. Imitating the voice, he pointed to the medicinal herbs and said, Imperial decree. The next moment, a flash of light flashed, and the medicinal herbs on the table underwent visible changes to the naked eye. The ginseng, originally as thin as a little finger, has now turned into a baby's arm. Li Yanchu had seen the old ginseng from Chiangmai Mountain for 30 years in a wealthy merchant's home in his previous life, and his appearance was not as good as this ginseng plant today. Just take a sip and you feel refreshed. This medicine is amazing. Li Yanchu was surprised to find that his number of merits had increased to 200. Reduced 100 merits. So, can I consume merit to strengthen items? Li Yanchu was shocked by this discovery. In order to test the efficacy of this 10 complete tonifying soup, Li Yanchu immediately boiled the medicine in the kitchen. After the medicine was cooked, a strong and mellow fragrance immediately filled the entire room. The black donkey in the yard suddenly stretched its neck and its eyes lit up. That is a relic left by the old master. Li Yanchu's heart moved and he poured out some soup and medicine in a bowl. He carried it out and arrived at the yard. The black donkey, who was tied up under a tree to eat grass, became excited when it smelled the fragrance of the medicine and stuck out its tongue. "Hey, don't worry, can I not think of you if there's something good?" Li Yanchu smiled gently. He placed the medicine bowl on Dehei's mouth, and the eager black donkey immediately licked up the bowl of 10 complete tonics. The black donkey shouted up to the sky, its hooves constantly scraping the ground. Suddenly, he broke the rope around his neck and ran wildly in the yard. "Lie down." Li Yanchu's body flashed and quickly dodged. He has roughly learned some martial arts from his master, and there is also a sword technique called the 6-yang sword technique. It's not a problem to beat 4 or 5 ordinary people. But the problem is, facing a crazy donkey, Li Yanchu doesn't want to touch this mold. Fortunately, Dehei was just running around in the yard, jumping up and down, and did not damage anything in the view. After struggling for 2 hours, Dehei finally calmed down and lay under the tree panting heavily. After careful observation for a while, Li Yanchu confirmed that this medicine has no side effects. Returning to the kitchen, he took a careful sip. Boom! Li Yanchu suddenly felt a thick medicinal force enter his body. The blood flowed rapidly and his heart beat strongly. So fierce. Li Yanchu felt an inexhaustible force on his body and urgently needed to vent it. What should I do? I haven't married yet, how can I vent my anger? Li Yanchu was very anxious in his heart. Zhengyi does not prohibit marriage, but the problem is that Li Yanchu has no wife at all. Go to the fence. This thought made Li Yanchu's breathing increasingly rapid, and his blood became increasingly hot. Wei County has good places like Golan. But Li Yanchu's current situation seems to be a bit too late, with too much yang energy. With a moment of thought, Li Yanchu touched the cold pig-killing knife on his waist. Pushing open the kitchen door, I arrived at the spacious courtyard and began practicing the 6-yang knife technique taught by my master. He can strengthen his body and increase his strength by simply practicing his moves. In fact, this sword technique has a great origin and is also among the third-rate martial arts in the martial arts world. Don't underestimate third-rate martial arts, as they are already the ultimate skill of many sections. By training into the first layer, one can refine the 6-yang internal force, which is sharp and scorching, and has strong qi and blood. Infusing the 6-yang force onto a weapon can increase its power. But it's not easy to reach this point. The pig-killing knife in Li Yanchu's hand became faster and faster, and the restlessness in his heart gradually disappeared. Instead, it entered a mysterious state of forgetting both things and me. In martial arts, this is called enlightenment. And after practicing overnight, Li Yanchu was pleasantly surprised to find that he had successfully developed the 6-yang force and entered a realm that ordinary martial artists may not have been able to reach for 3 to 5 years. The first layer of 6-yang saber technique. Chapter 4. Empress in Green. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the gradually brightening sky at this moment, Li Yanchu was somewhat surprised. I just realized and practiced the first level of the 6-yang saber technique. This is a realm that even an ordinary martial artist may not be able to reach in 10 years. This medicinal herb after the Imperial decree is absolutely extraordinary, it can make oneself step into the first level of the 6-yang saber technique in one day. Li Yanchu has only a partial understanding of martial arts, after all, his master is a Taoist. This 6-yang saber technique was discovered by Master Xuancheng, who accidentally found it among the relics left by a swordsman who was being chased by an enemy. Taoist Xuancheng himself does not know martial arts. It seems that I will go find Miss Qingyun for advice tomorrow, Li Yanchu said in his heart. Across from Qingyun Temple is the Taiping Inn. The shopkeeper is a widow, and Fang Qingyun is the shopkeeper's sister. He is a true martial arts master trained by a renowned teacher, wielding an iron sword with extremely superb swordsmanship. The next day, Li Yanchu arrived at the Taiping Inn early in the morning. The shopkeeper is a beautiful woman in her 30s, with mature charm in every frown and smile. Goose egg face, with a tear mole at the corner of the eye, and a plump and charming figure. Li Daochang, you're here, I'll make tea for you, the servant said warmly. The entire Taiping Inn, perhaps this servant, was very polite to Li Yanchu. The shopkeeper's attitude is much colder, because the land of Qingyun Temple is still rented by the shopkeeper to Taoist Xuancheng. The Taoist temple has sparse incense and rent has been overdue for over a year. Isn't this Master Yanchu, said the shopkeeper with a stern expression, neither cold nor warm. Actually, the shopkeeper is not bad. If it were someone else, they would have kicked Li Yanchu out long ago. But the shopkeeper's mouth never forgives people. The shopkeeper looks very good today. I think business will definitely become more prosperous these days, Li Yanchu smiled. Humph. The shopkeeper glanced at Li Yanchu and said coldly, Taoist Yanchu, when do you want to delay the rent? I think you might as well shut down the Taoist temple and come to my place. Li Yanchu smiled but remained silent. Directly took out a few ingots of silver and placed them on the counter. The shopkeeper's rosy and tempting little mouth was continuing to utter cold words, criticizing Li Yanchu for guarding that broken Taoist temple. But when he saw these few ingots of silver, his gaze suddenly froze. This. The rosy little mouth opened, somewhat incredulous. She knows how poor Qingyun Temple is. Li Yanchu doesn't even have a penny of silver on him. Where did he get so much silver? Thank you very much for the care of the shopkeeper on weekdays. Here is the outstanding rent, as well as this year's rent. The extra money can be considered as compensation to the shopkeeper, Li Yanchu said. The shopkeeper's heart twitched, and a smile on his face made him feel like he was basking in spring breeze. He said, how can we make this happen? Even if we delay for a little longer, it won't hurt. I'm not someone who is petty about every detail. Although he said so with his mouth, he put the silver into his bag without showing any trace on his hands, and placed it close to his chest. Li Yanchu immediately pleased her a lot. Someone, bring a pot of good tea to Taoist Yanchu. The shopkeeper swayed the plump peaches and turned to enter the counter. The contrast before and after made Li Yanchu feel a bit embarrassed. Is Miss Qinlan there? Li Yanchu asked. You're looking for Qinlan. She went to the yamen today, and Constable Wang made her a constable. The shopkeeper smiled. Constable. Li Yanchu was somewhat surprised. Unexpectedly, Fang Qinlan transformed and became the constable of the yamen. What are you looking for me for? A cold voice suddenly came from behind. Li Yanchu turned around to look. A cold woman carrying an iron sword appeared at the entrance of the inn. The woman is 17 or 18 years old, with delicate facial features, fair skin, sturdy and slender legs, and a refreshing aura between her eyebrows. Miss Qinlan, I have some things I want to ask you. Would it be convenient for you? Li Yanchu said. Follow me, Fang Qinlan said with her chin down. The shopkeeper smiled but remained silent, busy with business. Fang Qinlan walked ahead, followed closely by Li Yanchu. At this distance, one could smell a faint fragrance. Fang Qinlan has fair skin and doesn't seem like a martial arts practitioner, but she is a descendant of a famous family with extraordinary swordsmanship. His buttocks were very upturned, and Li Yanchu was wondering if Fang Qinlan would have small abdominal muscles and mermaid lines. However, I just thought about it. What's up? Fang Qinlan walked into the yard and turned to ask. The relationship between the two is quite good, but Fang Qinlan has a cold personality and speaks coldly. I want to ask, how are the levels of martial arts divided? Li Yanchu said. Fang Qinlan remained silent. Yanchu, the Taoist priest, asked why this was done. You practiced martial arts too late, and you won't be able to enter the palace in your lifetime. The girl spoke bluntly. Li Yanchu. Feng Qinglan is like this, cold and wielding a sword to wander the world. I have already mastered the first level of the 6-yang saber technique last night, Li Yanchu said calmly. Feng Qinglan was slightly surprised. It's really strange that Taoist Yanchu has already passed the most suitable age for practicing martial arts, and can even refine qi and blood, giving him a glimpse into the path. Feng Qinglan said. I also broke through while practicing, Li Yanchu said humbly. He really didn't lie about this. Feng Qinglan glanced at Li Yanchu and said, the way of martial arts does not have a specific realm division, but in the martial arts world, it can be roughly divided into 3 levels. Second level and first. Class experts. Is it so? Casual. Li Yanchu's heart moved and he asked, Miss Qinglan, have you ever entered an epiphany? Feng Qinglan said, the sudden enlightenment in martial arts can be encountered but not sought after. It is a great opportunity, and ordinary people cannot enter the enlightenment realm in their lifetime. They still need to be down to earth and not aim too high. Li Yanchu said, Miss Qinglan, have you ever entered an epiphany? Feng Qinglan. Li Yanchu understood, and this sudden realization of martial arts seemed even more difficult than he had imagined. Even children of famous families like Feng Qinglan could not achieve it. By the way, I heard from the shopkeeper that Constable Wang has invited you to become a constable in the yamen. Li Yanchu changed the topic. After all, being able to get along with such an iceberg-like woman is not too straightforward for him. Feng Qinglan lowered her head and said, the Qingyun Temple fair is approaching, and there are more and more foreign wanderers. Captain Wang asked me to assist. The Qingyun Temple fair is a grand festival in Wei City, held to worship the Qingyun Empress. This lady in green is really famous, said Li Yanchu with some envy. After all, he is the contemporary leader of Qingyun Temple and can also be considered a member of the Taoist sect. Seeing a green-clothed lady who is not even in Orthodox mythology, unexpectedly enjoying such incense in Wei City, I couldn't help feeling a little sad in my heart. This lady in green clothes is extremely effective, especially 20 years ago, it is said that she even appeared. From then on, every time there was a Qingyun Temple fair, scholars and young ladies from all over the country would come to Wei City. When things get mixed up, it's easy to get into trouble, so the yamen naturally attaches great importance to this matter. After leaving the Taiping Inn, Li Yanchu returned to the Taoist temple to continue practicing martial arts. On this day, he entered a state of enlightenment 3 times. Chapter 5. Searching for Fugitives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With the assistance of a century-old divine medicine, Li Yanchu's cultivation has made rapid progress. After all, martial artists in the martial arts world do not have the opportunity to constantly take the century-old elixir. Even if you have a wealth of money, you may not be able to buy ginseng and lingji that have been aged for 100 years. For people in the martial arts world, the century-old divine medicine is something that can be encountered but not sought after. The cultivation of the 6-yang force consumes a great deal of qi and blood in humans. This martial art enhances the power of the 6-yang force by consuming a person's qi and blood. Once improper cultivation occurs, it leads to a deficiency of qi and blood, resulting in incurable sequelae. In severe cases, one may even die from a burst of meridians. However, Li Yanchu now has the nourishment of the century-old divine medicine, without any worries. The century-old divine medicine contains magnificent qi and blood medicinal power, which can be practiced after taking it. This knife technique has a total of 6 layers, and the 6-yang force it cultivates is incredibly sharp. In this situation, Li Yanchu only spent 7 days practicing this knife technique to the 4th level. A body full of qi and blood, with strong muscles and bones. At this moment, Li Yanchu had already taken on the aura of a skilled swordsman, his eyes shining brightly, his momentum fierce, and his sharpness exposed. Typing in. Li Yanchu went out to buy medicinal herbs for the century-old imperial medicine, and then stopped at the inn to drink tea. Among the tea houses and inns, the news is the most well-informed. What strange things have happened in Wei City recently? Li Yanchu asked. Strange things. The servant looked left and right and whispered, "It's a coincidence, there really is one." Li Yanchu just casually asked, but to his surprise, the servant replied directly, "Yes." It immediately piqued his interest. Since crossing over, he has discovered this world, which not only has Taoist techniques, but also martial arts and ghosts and monsters. It's not at all ordinary ancient times. Especially now that he has killed the pervert, he has directly obtained 300 merits. The servant glanced around and saw that there were no new customers around. He then said to Li Yanchu. "Yanchu Dao Chang, a major event has occurred in Wei City these days. One of the two major constables, Constable Zhao, has uncovered a group of murderous thieves. The leader was the thief Liang, who had excellent martial arts skills and was ruthless. He was caught by the Zhao constable and pinned down in the Wei City prison. Originally, according to Liang Qi's crime, it would have been a light sentence to be executed by beheading. However, for some unknown reason, he has not been sentenced and has only been detained in prison. Is it the bandit Liang Qi who kidnaps and kills people without any wrongdoing?" Li Yanchu asked. "That's right, it's him." The servant nodded. Li Yanchu knew that Liang Qi was an extremely fierce thief near Wei City, who often kidnapped wealthy young masters and extorted money. But this person doesn't follow the rules, and often after receiving the money, the hostages are brutally killed. "Captain Zhao, this is really killing harm for the people." Li Yanchu sighed. The two major constables of Wei City, Zhao Wuzhu and Wang Chongshan, are both very skilled martial arts experts under their command. Weiqing is close to the dock, with a large number of merchants and a mix of good and bad. The county government of Weiqing relies on the two major constables, Zhao Wang, to control the 3 religions and 9 streams. However, upon hearing that this was a matter of the imperial court's arrest of thieves, rather than a mischievous act, Li Yanchu did not continue to investigate further. He has tried these days, and whether it is deliberately giving money to roadside beggars or providing relief to the poor, he will not gain merit. Perhaps it was intentional. However, Li Yan was originally open-minded and no longer intentionally gained merit. The mature landlady of Taiping Inn has improved her attitude towards Li Yanchu and her eyes have become much softer. At least no more cold words. Li Yanchu drank tea at the inn for a while, and the beauty shopkeeper sat down for a while and chatted a few words. This made the guests of Taiping Inn envious. The owner's chest was heavy, but it was hard to move her eyes. Only Li Yanchu has this treatment. "It's just that I used to be mocked for pursuing debt, but now I'm just chatting a few words." After the landlady left swaying her plump peaches, Li Yanchu paid to leave the Taiping Inn. He enjoys the lively atmosphere in the inn, where various exciting news from the community also spreads. This may be the smoke and fire of the human world. Of course, it's not for the mature and beautiful boss lady. After leaving the Taiping Inn, Li Yanchu bought all the medicinal herbs and returned to Qingyun Temple to be granted an imperial edict. Just across the street, one is born and the other is born. I don't know why Li Yanchu's master, the Xuanqing Taoist, chose to open a Taoist temple here. Is it to see the boss lady? Li Yanchu said in his heart. This is really possible. The master of Li Yanchu, Taoist Xuanqing, doesn't seem to have the demeanor of a master at all, and doesn't seem to be a true master of the sect. At the age of over 50, with a national face and a righteous expression, he wore a washed white Taoist robe and a pair of blue and white square shoes. It looks more like an old farmer than a Taoist. I usually like to show off to beautiful women with a slender figure, touch their soft skirts, and be able to talk for a while. Thinking of his master, Li Yanchu's heart softened. That master was the first person he recognized. Although he was a bit unorthodox, he was an excellent person and had a kind heart towards him. Li Yanchu opened the yellowed ancient book in his hand, with 4 large characters written on the cover. Huangting Daojing. This ancient book records a method of breathing and breathing. The most difficult part of this skill is to understand the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and absorb it. Li Yan meditated cross-legged at the beginning, practicing the Taoist breathing technique taught by his master with his eyes closed. A breath of invisible white air was sucked in from his mouth and nose, flowing into his chest and into his internal organs, warming and nourishing his body and bones. The Taoist cultivation method absorbs innate qi, while martial artists in the martial arts world practice acquire true qi, which cannot be compared. According to Master Xuanqing's words, he went up the mountain to cultivate at the age of 7. 3 years of reading Taoist classics, honing one's character. 2 years of practicing martial arts, practicing hard work and bones. It takes 3 years to realize the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, which can bring qi into the body. It was another 5 years before I finally got my first glimpse of the path. After half a year of hard work, I finally reached my current state. This qualification has already ranked among the top 10 disciples throughout history, successfully inheriting the tradition and taking charge of the Qingyun Temple. Li Yanchu had also prepared for 10 years of hard cultivation at that time, but he didn't expect to only practice once and then realize the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. At that time, the expression on Taoist Xuanqing's face was extremely exciting. However, 3 years have passed now, and there has not been much progress in the cultivation of the Huangting Daojing. The spiritual energy absorbed daily flows into the sea of Dantian Qi like a flowing thread. This cultivation method combines the 5 elements of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, with endless growth and vitality. Its power is also 5 times stronger than ordinary cultivation methods. But the difficulty of cultivation is 5 times that of ordinary methods. Li Yanchu looked at the rare spiritual energy in the sea of qi and sighed slightly. Exited the cultivation state. Dong! 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 A fierce knocking came on the door. Open the door. Open the door. The government is searching for fugitives. Li Yanchu's eyes lit up. Chapter 6. Murderer Liang 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Half an hour ago. Wei City Prison. The smell in the prison is complex. In addition to the foul smell of grass and trees, there is also a foul smell of urine, which makes people unable to resist stomach acid surging. In the deepest cell of the dark passage, there is a ferocious-looking and ragged prisoner imprisoned. This person has a thick skeleton, sharp eyes, and a fierce aura. Upon closer inspection, one will notice that his left hand is missing the ring in little fingers, and his right hand is missing the little finger. Only 7 fingers. He is the great bandit who runs through the Wei City, Liang Qi. The black tiger golden fist, which is passed down from family, was ruthless and fell under the hands of Zhao Wuzhu, one of the 2 major constables in Wei City, a few days ago. Liang Qi, it's time for dinner. A young prison guard walked over with a look of fear in his eyes. After putting down the vegetables, Liang Qi suddenly pounced on him and started eating them in large gulps. The young prison guard was startled. This person has a fierce appearance and fast movements, which is really frightening. When the light prison guard returned to the duty room, an older prison guard smiled and joked, "Huzi, why are you so scared that your face turns white?" The young prison guard named Xuanzi smiled bitterly and said, "Grandma, that Liang Qi looks really scary. I'm afraid of a hammer. He's just a defeated general under Captain Zhao's command. Now that he's detained in prison, what else can he make?" sneered the older prison guard. "Is it difficult for this bandit to escape from prison? Duj, why do I feel like the cell tonight is a bit cold?" Xuanzi sighed and said. Du Gu, who was slightly older, nodded and said, "I also feel that tonight is really damn cold." He reached out and poured a glass of wine, handed it to the cork, and said, "Here, take a sip of wine and warm up your body." The cork came over and drank it all in one gulp. "Thank you, Duke." The prison guards here were talking and laughing, but outside the cell deep inside the prison, there was suddenly a sound of footsteps. What kind of person? A middle-aged prison guard suddenly frowned, drew his sword, and went out to drink. But the prison is empty, and there is no one in the passage. "Brother Hu, are you too nervous?" The prison guard surnamed Du rushed out and breathed a sigh of relief when he saw no one around. The middle-aged prison guard frowned and looked deep into the prison, saying in a deep voice, "Let's go over and take a look at Liang Qi. This Liang Qi Pao is extremely vicious, and Captain Zhao reminds him to take good care of him." Several prison guards drew their knives and arrived at the cell deep inside the prison. The middle-aged prison guard's gaze suddenly sank. The cell is surprisingly empty. Thief escapes from prison. A chill rose from the back of the middle-aged prison guard. In the heavily guarded Wei City prison, a murderer disappeared out of thin air. Is there a ghost? Several prison guards immediately went out to spread the news of Liang Qi's escape from prison. The county magistrate was furious and sent the government's yamen guards to search the entire city, going door-to-door. This is the scene of the yamen attendant with a knife coming to the door just now. Liang Qi actually escaped from prison, or disappeared out of thin air under strict security. Li Yanchu was somewhat surprised in his heart. A group of fierce and evil yamen runners searched the city, led by two major constables Zhao Wuzhu and Wang Chongshan. Su, supervisor of the county, ordered the city gate to be closed, and no one was allowed to leave the city. For a moment, the people of Wei City were in a state of panic, especially those wealthy families, afraid that the bandit Liang Qi would flee into their homes. And news of ghosts haunting the Wei City prison has also spread. It's unbelievable that a person can disappear out of thin air. There is a curfew in Qianguo, and people are not allowed to move on the streets after nightfall. On the second day after Liang Qi escaped from the prison of Wei City, Zhao Wuzhu, one of the two major constables, led the yamen guards to search for the fugitive. After nightfall, Wei City was particularly calm and silent. Except for the occasional meowing of cats and barking of dogs, which added a hint of gloomy energy to this cold and desolate night, there was no sound left. The people of Wei City closed their doors early, extinguished the lights, and had already rested. Zhao Wuzhu is a middle-aged man with a tiger's back and a bear's waist. He practices hard skills horizontally and is skilled in swordsmanship. Once, one person killed more than 20 mountain bandits, making a name for one side. After being recruited as a constable by the Beifeng County government, he settled down. Over the years, many murderers and robbers have fallen into the hands of Zhao Wuzhu. At this moment, the bandit Liang Qi, who had just been caught, unexpectedly escaped from prison. Zhao Wuzhu led his men to search and arrest him everywhere, vowing to bring him to justice. "Captain Zhao, that house is a bit strange," a yamen runner suddenly said. Zhao Wuzhu looked over and found it to be an ordinary residential building with lights on. This was in the north of the city, and most of the people living there were poor. The yard is surrounded by fences, and you can see a figure sitting there with lights on inside. "Captain Zhao, this is the residence of the local mischievous Hu Ergo. Hu Ergo had a conflict with someone 3 days ago and was stabbed to death in a dark alley. I was in charge at that time," said the yamen guard. "Does Hu Ergo have a family?" Zhao Wuzhu asked. Hu Ergo's parents passed away early and he was a rogue and mischievous person wandering the streets. Not only did he have no relatives in this county, but he also didn't even take his wife, explained the yamen official. "That's why he said this house is strange. So, there shouldn't be any talent here." Zhao Wuzhu furrowed his brow and ordered several yamen officials, "You guys take people to flank from behind, you guys come with me." UU reading www.uukangshu.net. Zhao Wuzhu's yamen guards took orders and led the villagers to guard behind the house. to prevent thieves from escaping. Zhao Wuzhu gently pushed the door and found that it was not locked, just opened with a gentle push. Several Yamen officials glanced at each other and clenched their knives in their hands. Zhao Wu, a skilled craftsman with great courage, took the lead in walking ahead, while the figure still sat by the window. Open the door. The government is searching for fugitives. Zhao Wuzhu smashed the door. The people in the room sat still and there was no response. The yard is also very quiet. Zhao Wuzhu frowned and pushed the door open with force. The atmosphere at this moment is extremely eerie. My heart is heavy. The lights in the room are brightly lit, and there are no shadows at all. Oh, where was that person just now? A Yamen runner exclaimed in surprise. The room is very quiet, empty, and it feels a bit oppressive. Zhao Wuzhu held a thick-backed large sword in his hand, which was incredibly sharp. At this moment, his gaze sank slightly and he said, "What's the smell?" The sword-wielding Yamen servant behind him sniffed and exclaimed in surprise, "It seems to be the smell of corpse decay." As soon as this statement was made, the temperature inside the room felt like it had dropped a bit in an instant. Zhao Wuzhu said in a deep voice, "Search around and don't miss any details." Yes. This room is very large, but the furniture is rudimentary, giving it a feeling of being alone. The Yamen officers rummaged through boxes and cabinets, searching for suspicious traces. Just now, I saw a figure clearly and disappeared in the blink of an eye. This incident made the Yamen runners present feel a bit uneasy. Puff. A Yamen runner suddenly fell to the ground, losing his breath. Chapter 7. Empress Dowager. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What's wrong with you? The surrounding officials with swords gathered around. A Yamen runner reached out and touched his colleague's breath, exclaiming in fear, "Dead! Dead! He's dead!" The room fell silent for a moment. Zhao Wuzhu frowned tightly. How could a living person just die like this? Puff. Another Yamen runner fell to the ground without a sound. Zhao Wuzhu felt a chill surge from his coccyx to his head. The lights in the room suddenly became unpredictable. In the blink of an eye, the several Yamen officials who entered the house were right under their noses, 2 of whom died. "Captain Zhao, do you think this room is not clean? There's something dirty that we can't see." A Yamen runner's voice trembled slightly. "It is said that only monks and Taoists can see those unclean things. This place is dangerous, retreat first." Zhao Wuzhu said. Puff. The Yamen runner who had just spoken also fell to the ground. Zhao Wuzhu was furious and said, "I am the constable of Wei City. What kind of demon is plotting to harm the officials? A body full of qi and blood circulation, muscles and bones ringing together. This Wei City constable with excellent martial arts skills is preparing to take the remaining brothers and leave this place first." Just as Zhao Wuzhu stepped out of the door, he suddenly let out a scream. The room is filled with gloomy energy. It was as if an invisible hand had grabbed Zhao Wuzhu, who was highly skilled in martial arts, back into the house. So far. The lights in the room went out and plunged into darkness, with no more sound. The entire courtyard and house fell back into a calm and silent state. But the Yamen runner Xiangyong, who had been guarding the back of the house with a knife, surprisingly did not hear a sound. They didn't hear anything like the big commotion before. Inside and outside the room, it seems like they have become 2 worlds of yin and yang. Completely isolated. As time passed, the originally dark room suddenly became brightly lit again. A figure appeared again on the window. This time the figure moved. He stood up and pushed open the door. It's Zhao Wuzhu. The next day. Li Yanchu's daily life is very regular. Besides practicing the 6-yang saber technique, he also meditates and vomits. With the assistance of the century-old elixir, he quickly broke through to the 5th layer of the 6-yang force. And finally learned a spell yesterday. Wangqi Technique. This is a spell recorded in the Huangting Dao Jing. Everyone has their own strength, and different people have different levels of strength. Among them, the aura of scholars is brilliant, because they recite the scriptures of saints. Like those scholars with great achievements, they can be seen from several miles away with a literary and dazzling aura. Of course, the technique of looking for qi can also be used to observe good or bad luck in people. For example, if black energy surrounds, it indicates poor luck, and if mixed with red energy, it indicates that there may be a recent disaster of blood and light. There is not much spiritual energy in Li Yanchu's body, which limits the number of times he can use the Wangqi technique. However, having just mastered this spell, Li Yanchu couldn't help but try it out. He applied the technique of looking at qi, and the world in his eyes suddenly changed. Surrounded by the clear light of Qingyun Temple, one can easily see a place of cultivation. He moved his heart and turned his gaze to the Taipingyan across from him. Qi is mixed. One of them, a brilliant aura, rose up from the sky and was magnificent, leaving Li Yanchu somewhat surprised. Who has such a strange aura? But before he could see it carefully, the spiritual energy in his body was depleted. Li Yanchu sighed slightly. The speed of practicing this technique is really too slow. When can I continue to practice those magical spells inside? Li Yanchu plans to go to the pharmacy again to see if there are any medicinal herbs for refining the Guiyuan pill. Continuing like this, he doesn't need to think about spells like the primordial spirit coming out of the body, exploring the bag to extract things, and the 5 thunder correct technique. For this reason, he once suspected that the Huangting Taoist scripture passed to him by his master was not considered a top-level Taoist practice. After all, Qingyun Temple has declined to this point, so it cannot still be an important branch. However, being able to learn the methods of Taoist cultivation, Li Yanchu felt that it was not easy, and how could he choose the techniques? The refining of Guiyuan pill is imminent. In recent days, the entire city of Wei has been under martial law, and the wanted criminal Liang has been arrested. As a constable in the Yamen, Fang Qinglan is also extremely busy. However, she still found Li Yanchu. What? Do you want me to stay at the inn? Li Yanchu suspected that Fang Qinglan wanted to expand her business for the inn. That's right, I haven't been at the inn these days. I don't feel at ease with my sister alone, said Fang Qinglan. In her opinion, at least Li Yanchu knows some kung fu, and the 6-yang saber technique has also entered the door. It is much stronger than ordinary people. Does your sister know about this? Li Yanchu asked. Fang Qinglan's sister is the beautiful landlady of Taiping Inn, with a mature and charming smile. She is not very compatible with Li Yanchu. I told her before I came, and she has already agreed, Fang Qinglan said. But this matter is a bit inconvenient. After all, I am a man and your sister is a lonely man and a widow. This. Li Yanchu was a bit puzzled. Why, don't you want to help me with this? Fang Qinglan said. Since you have spoken, it is my duty to move over tonight. Li Yanchu changed his tone. Fang Qinglan has a cold personality, but she has a good relationship with Li Yanchu. The boss is kind-hearted and broad-minded, and Li Yanchu doesn't want her to get into trouble. I was originally planning to negotiate the price, but recently, Master Li has been exorcising ghosts and has just earned 100 taels of silver. Li Daochang is too lazy to talk about money at this moment. Fang Qinglan's mouth curled up with a touching curve, as if ice and snow were melting. Her facial features are extremely delicate, and when she didn't smile, she was already extremely beautiful. Her charming appearance at this moment is something that no one else can see. That's it. Li Yanchu temporarily moved to the Taiping Inn. The beautiful landlady lives in a house with a yard and is usually the only one on her own. Li Yanchu was the first man to live in. I'm actually not afraid either. It's Qinglan who's bothering me and insists that you come over. Don't think too much, said the boss with her delicate chin held high. Yes, yes, I know, Li Yanchu said perfunctorily. Humph. The landlady turned her head, too lazy to pay attention to this angry guy. She has a natural charm at her age, which is not at all out of place. Instead, it added a touch of charm. Of course, in Li Yanchu's view, the main reason is that the boss lady is beautiful and has a good figure. Otherwise, switching to a woman with mediocre appearance would be a bit of a headache. Sitting in the room, Li Yanchu thought about the boss's plump and mature body. There was a hint of warmth in my heart. After all, the two of them are just separated by a wall and live in the same courtyard. A Taoist with red lips and white teeth, a delicate appearance, more like a wealthy young master or scholar. A plump, mature and charming boss lady with fair skin and beautiful eyes. Li Yanchu couldn't help but have some ulterior motives. Chapter 8. Unclean. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day. The landlady sat at the table, eating a large steamed bun filled with cabbage and pork, which was very white and soft. Li Yanchu sat down. Very impolite, pick up the buns and eat them. The characteristic big bags of Wei City were a bit difficult for Li Yanchu to grasp with just one hand, very large and soft. Take a bite with plenty of juice, it's delicious and delicious. This steamed bun is good, it's delicious, Li Yanchu said. That's natural, I made it myself, the landlady said proudly. This craftsmanship is absolutely amazing, surpassing Wei City. No, the entire Beifeng County is also the first. Li Yanchu praised. The landlady laughed wildly. You don't have to say that, your vision is quite good, sighed the landlady. With a discreet glance in his eyes, Li Yanchu buried his head in eating steamed buns. There are all kinds of customs. The landlady felt Li Yanchu's gaze and did not dodge. I completely didn't face the rejection of those guests from thousands of miles away, but leaned forward and placed my body directly on the table. Li Yanchu almost choked. The boss's wife was so amused that she bent down with a smile. Yanchu Daochang, your eyes are not honest, the landlady smiled as she left. It's like looking at a furry young man. Li Yanchu felt a chill in his heart, completely seeing him as a rookie who didn't understand anything. If there's a chance, I'll definitely let you taste my strength, Li Yanchu chewed hard on the big bun. Wei City has indeed had an accident recently. Not only bandit Liang escaped from the prison. And one of the two major constables, Zhao Wuzhu, was ambushed while leading his men to pursue him, resulting in the death of several yamen runners. Only Zhao Wuzhu was injured and survived. Now recuperating at home. At this moment. In the city of Wei, there have been 3 cases of missing women. The missing were all young women who suddenly disappeared from their homes. And according to family members, a strange sound of footsteps was heard before the disappearance, but no one was seen. At this time, it is difficult not to associate with the bandit Liang who is wandering outside. For a moment, people were in a state of panic. The back hall of the county government. Su, supervisor of the county, wearing an official robe, is reprimanding his subordinates. Waste. It's all waste, how could Liang escape under his nose, and after so many days of searching the whole city, he still hasn't found anything. Su, supervisor of the county, is 40 years old this year, which is the time when men are most attractive. He is a jinsher, an upright official, and has a heart for common people. The only drawback is that one likes to spit out fragrance. The county government's patrol constables and jailers all stood under the court, and Su's supervisor of the county cursed them bloody. Among them is Wang Chongshan, one of the 2 major constables. He is a tall and thin middle-aged man with thick joints in his hands, who has practiced the iron sand palm hard skill. Zhao Wuzhu was injured, and the task of leading people to search for the fugitive fell on him. Faced with a boss who likes to spit out fragrance, Constable Wang expressed Alexander. Report. A Yamen runner rushed in panic and knelt down in the hall. The senior officials of the county government are all here, including the chief clerk, chief historian, county magistrate, constable, and inspector. Say, said Su's supervisor of the county in a deep voice. Report to the county magistrate, someone has reported a case to the county government, and another woman is missing, said the Yamen official. The air suddenly quieted down. Everyone felt a burst of pressure. The fourth one. Bang. Su's supervisor of the county slams his cup on the ground with fierce eyes. Check it out for me, dig 3 feet deep in Wei City, and also find the culprit for me. When everyone left the back hall and rushed to arrest the culprit, Inspector Zhou stopped Constable Wang and said, Chongshan, the recent case has been a bit strange. Do you have any confidence? The inspector is a 9th-rank military officer, responsible for the soldiers of Wei City, and has a strong friendship with Wang Chongshan. Wang Chongshan sighed and said, I didn't know who Liang Qi had gone through. He didn't immediately execute him, nor was he sentenced to execution. Now that his whereabouts are unknown, the whole city has been searching for several days but still hasn't been found. I suspect someone is secretly sheltering him. Zhou Inspector whispered, Chongshan, have you ever thought that maybe something dirty is causing it? Otherwise, why did you escape without realizing it? Even if the prison guard was bribed, it was impossible to release this repeat offender directly. This is simply unbelievable. Wang Chongshan shook his head, his gaze reflecting, and said, if that's the case, it will be difficult to handle. Ordinary warriors can't handle dirty things at all, that's the expertise of monks and Taoists. When Li Yanchu walked out of the landlady's yard, the servant looked at him dumbfounded. Yanchu Daochang, how could you be here? The servant was slightly surprised. Miss Qinglan invited me to come and protect the shopkeeper for now. Please don't speak up, Li Yanchu said calmly. The servant replied, don't worry, I am the only one who knows about this matter. Then all the servants, maids, and chefs in the entire inn knew about this matter. Sometimes secrets spread like this. Everyone instructed the other party not to tell anyone. Then everyone's gaze towards Li Yanchu became somewhat ambiguous. After all, the shopkeeper is a mature and beautiful woman who lives alone and has been guarding herself for many years. Yu reading www.yuyukeungshu.net. Now a young Taoist has been allowed to live in the courtyard. The significance of this is not enough for outsiders. Many people think they understand very well, so they are very sensible and keep silent. The shopkeeper's mouth may not spare people, but he has a kind heart and looks very beautiful. Yan Chu, the Taoist priest from Qingyun Temple across from him, is clear and beautiful, looking very handsome. The two of them are a perfect match when they are together. Of course, there are also some people who are loyal to Fang Qinglan, a chivalrous woman who wields a sword and roams the martial arts world, as well as Taoist Yan Chu. The two groups still have to argue privately. The landlady remained the same as usual, only losing a few words when she saw Li Yanchu, with a hint of indescribable meaning in her eyes. This is hidden so deeply that most people can't even see it. In the courtyard of the inn. After nightfall. With the assistance of the century-old divine medicine that Li Yanchu eats as a daily meal, he finally completed the 6th level of the 6-yang saber technique. When activated, the body's qi and blood are incredibly thick, and the overall temperament is polished even sharper. Just looking introverted and not as sharp as before. The whole person is tall and straight, with shining eyes. Now his martial arts are equivalent to half a century of hard work by others. Centennial ginseng and century-old lingji can both enhance qi and blood, and strengthen the overall body. Li Yanchu's muscles, bones, qi, and blood have long been transformed. After nightfall. The landlady lay alone in bed. The room remained calm and quiet, like an old pool in a deep mountain. Suddenly, there was a faint sound of footsteps in the room. Creak. The pitch-black door gently moved. Chapter 9. Paper Pricks People. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The door seemed to be blown by the wind, but there was no one outside, only an empty courtyard. The landlady sleeps very lightly and usually sleeps with a door bolt inserted. At this moment, I was disturbed by the light noise. Her muscles tightened all over her body, holding her breath. Pop, pop, there were faint footsteps coming from outside the door, as if knocking on the owner's heart. The air solidifies like a ball of ice. Who? The landlady asked, and Li Yanchu was the only one living in the yard. But the heavy footsteps of the man suddenly stopped, as if it seems like someone is standing outside the door. At this moment, there was a faint moonlight in the yard, but there was no figure outside the door. Yanchu Daochang, is that you? The landlady mustered up her courage and asked. However, there was no sound of breathing, no footsteps, no movement outside the door, and it was all silent. Clack. The sound of footsteps echoed again, this time as if they were getting closer to the door. The air appears particularly sticky and oppressive, making it impossible to breathe. But in the tightly closed room, the sound of the man's footsteps echoed as he approached the landlady step by step. A gloomy aura instantly enveloped the entire room. Ah! What kind of person? The landlady exclaimed in surprise, holding the blanket in her hands and covering her chest, her expression extremely frightened. But there was no sound outside, and the screams inside seemed to be unable to be heard. The air is as cold as an ice cellar. The landlady feels a bit stiff in her body. As the innkeeper, she is much more mentally determined than an ordinary woman, but when faced with this situation, she still falls into great fear. The landlady was desperate, and she let out a shout as if it couldn't be heard outside. Completely isolated into two worlds. The sound of the man's footsteps was getting closer and closer to her. Li Yanchu, who was practicing next door, suddenly had a heavy gaze. After practicing the Huangting Dao Jing, his inspiration was much higher than that of ordinary people. His gaze turned to the landlady's room. Boom! The next moment, the hard door of the landlady's house was suddenly split open by a huge force from outside, exploding into pieces. The huge sound shook the entire room, and several thick cracks cracked on the entrance wall. Seeking death. With a furious roar, Li Yanchu carried an uncontrollable murderous aura, like a whirlwind in the wind, and directly wielded his knife to kill towards the bedside. In the bedroom, the whole body was cold and stiff, unable to resist, and the landlady was being dragged step by step into the darkness. When she heard the door being knocked open and roaring, the pain on her face relaxed, revealing a relaxed expression of relief. In the next moment, a man appeared in front of the boss's wife, wielding a knife, as if a deity had descended and his energy and blood were like an oven. The landlady was taken aback and said, "Master Yanchu." At the same time, there was a sense of confusion in her heart. No wonder her sister Fang Qinglan wanted to invite elder Yanchu to stay in. Li Yanchu held a knife, his eyes shining like cold electricity, with a deep and serene radiance that did not match his age. He didn't want to, he just stabbed the landlady in front of him. Puff. The landlady in front of me is in disarray. Ah. The illusion was cut open, and a man was stabbed with ghost-like paper painted with thick powder blusher, screaming in pain. Are you just pretending to be mischievous? Li Yanchu's arm muscles erupted, and he quickly stabbed the person's head with a knife. Shit! The air seemed to be cut open, emitting a sonic boom. He is well aware of the danger of this thing, no more than the lecherous one in the Chen family. Every move he makes is a full blow. But this eerie paper pricks people at an astonishing speed, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Li Yanchu's back felt a chill. The man with a big red powder blusher on his face appeared behind him. Li Yanchu's chi and blood surged, and he slashed directly behind him, with a sharp and scorching 6-yang force attached to the blade. The Xianxia force is so strong that it can effectively restrain this dirty thing. Who? The gloomy paper prick blew a gust of wind at Li Yanchu, and in an instant, a chill enveloped him. Yin and yang are insoluble. But a pure and warm innate qi in Li Yanchu's body suddenly flowed from the sea of qi and dantian, igniting the qi and blood in his body instantly. This is the innate qi cultivated from the Huangting Dao Jing. Bai Xie Pai Yi. Under the blessing of innate qi, Li Yanchu's body was boiling with qi and blood, and he was not afraid of the yin energy of this ghost. Cut straight at the paper-stabbing man. The pale-faced paper-pricked man let out a scream and ran out by smashing the door. I want to leave. Li Yanchu picked up his knife and chased after him. The bright red powder blusher paper cuts people quickly. But Li Yanchu is faster. The tremendous force directly sliced the courtyard gate into pieces. Boom! Li Yanchu chased after him and fought against the ghostly paper prick. Dang! 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 Surprisingly, there was a huge sound of metal and iron clanging. Li Yan achieved great yang power on the 6th day of the lunar calendar, possessing a brute force of 500 to 600 pounds, but was unexpectedly repelled by several steps. However, the killing blade in hand has great restraint against the paper prick. The short knife that Li Yanchu has always used as a pig-killing knife is actually a sharp blade that has killed hundreds of people. It is also the relic of the northern swordsman who died in a foreign land. The evil energy is extremely strong. Combined with Li Yanchu's sharp and scorching 6 yang energy, he became even braver in battle. Completely suppressed the man who was daubed with bright red powder blusher. Bang! 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 Li Yanchu's chopping directly shook the paper prick away. Although there was no bleeding on his arm, there were burnt black marks on it. Yu reading www.yuuqiangshu.net. The 6 yang force can attach to weapons and directly invade the opponent's body. Li Yanchu became more and more brave in battle, wielding a fierce and domineering sword that was heavier than the other. His fists were also incredibly heavy, carrying a hint of thunder and sparks. Radiant thunder and lightning echoed in the pitch-black night, each time making the man's aura wither a bit. Finger tigers soaked in black dog blood have a natural restraining effect on evil creatures. It is estimated that this paper-pricked man has never seen such a strange Taoist artifact in his life. At this moment, many people rushed over with torches. I only saw a man wearing a Taoist robe, holding a short knife with a thick back and thin blade in his forehand, chopping into the air. From time to time, it can also strike lightning sparks with a single punch. It's Yanchu Dao Chang. Many people know Li Yanchu and blurted out. The man with a paper prick was directly struck by Li Yanchu and knelt down. Boom! The hard bluestone floor suddenly shattered, cracking like a spider web. Li Yanchu took a step and punched the man in the eye, shining with lightning. A scream rang out from the mouth of the paper-pricked man with a gloomy aura. Puff! Li Yanchu's arm muscles tightened and he slashed at the neck of the man who had been stabbed with paper. This time, the killing blade with the 6 yang force attached directly cut off the head of the paper-piercing man. One was pale, and the paper with bright red powder blusher stuck his head on the ground, and the headless body had no blood gushing out. Appear directly in front of everyone, then turn into ashes and dissipate in the air. In the crowd, everyone looked at this scene in surprise, covered in cold. Chapter 10. Renowned Wei City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yanchu, the Taoist priest, is going crazy. Hurry up and catch him, said a spectator in terror. Bang! Someone kicked him from behind and knocked him down. You're blind, Taoist Yanchu. It's clear that this is about eliminating harm for the people and killing dirty things. Yes, Master Yanchu is truly a master of the Wei City Taoist sect. Having Master Yanchu is truly a blessing to our Wei City. There are many neighbors around, and Taoist Xuancheng from Qingyun Temple is a righteous person who often helps people ward off evil and ward off evil. Contemporary observers say that Chu Daochang was young and accomplished, and many people know that he once drove away evil spirits for Miss Chen of the Chen family. He is a skilled expert with true abilities. Especially after the paper-pricked man with dark energy was killed in the end, he revealed his true body, which made people believe that Li Yanchu was just exorcising evil. That's right, Taoist Yanchu was invited by me specifically to catch ghosts and slay demons. If it weren't for Taoist Yanchu, this ghost almost killed me. The boss's mother felt lingering fear. For a moment, everyone looked at Li Yanchu with admiration, and the guy who had previously said Li Yanchu was crazy also changed his tune. As long as I change my tune quickly, no one can kick me again. The county government's constables quickly rushed over, and Fang Qinglan was also among them. She was invited by Constable Wang to pursue the fugitive, but to her surprise, her own sister almost had an accident. "Sister, are you okay?" Fang Qinglan asked. "I'm fine, thanks to Taoist Yanchu, he just killed the ghost and saved my life," said the landlady. "I really scared her just now." The suffocating and oppressive feeling still lingers on her. "Thank you very much, Taoist Yanchu," Fang Qinglan said to Li Yanchu. She had originally invited Li Yanchu to stay at the Taiping Inn for peace of mind. "I didn't expect that my sister really had an accident. I never expected it." Li Yanchu was so brave that he directly killed the ghost. "How do you thank me?" Li Yanchu asked, feeling a sense of detachment after the war. Fang Qinglan. She didn't know how to respond for a moment. Li Yanchu chuckled and said, "As long as you're okay." Fang Qinglan glanced gratefully at Li Yanchu with her jaw down. "If something happens to my sister, she will probably blame herself for the rest of her life. How could such a beautiful landlady die in the hands of that ghost?" Li Yanchu smiled. The landlady rarely retorted, but smiled brightly, unsure of what was on her mind. At this moment, a tall and thin middle-aged man appeared in the yamen, with great authority. He walked over and clenched his fists at Li Yanchu, saying, "Your Excellency is Taoist Yanchu. I have been at Wang Chongshan and have never had the chance to meet you. Today, when I saw you, you are indeed a master of the Taoist sect." Wang Chongshan, one of the two major constables in the county government. Li Yanchu clenched his fists and said, "Constable Wang, you're welcome. I'm just an ordinary Taoist. I admire the young Taoist for being able to slay such an evil demon." Wang Chongshan praised. Li Yanchu felt that the Constable Wang seemed to be interested in making friends, and his attitude was very friendly, not as serious as rumored. "Just now, when I saw the traces of fighting in the yard, I saw that Yanchu, the Taoist priest, was skilled in his sword techniques and martial arts." Even Wang felt inferior. "Dare to ask, is Yanchu Daochang the 6-yang sword technique for cultivation?" "Constable Wang has good eyesight, that's right." Wang Chongshan nodded, with an undisguised expression of joy in his eyes. He admired his martial arts skills at a young age. Recently, 4 women have been missing consecutively. It is believed that they are closely related to the ghost that was just killed by the Taoist priest. It can be said that the Taoist priest's actions are immeasurable. Wang Chongshan said. Li Yanchu gave a slight smile. After killing the man who had been stabbed with paper just now, the sound of the Tao echoed in his mind. 500 merits. Li Yanchu now has a total of 600 merits, including the 200 merits consumed by the previous Imperial Edict on Inda. Constable Wang stayed behind to carefully inquire about the situation just now, and then left the Taiping Inn. There was nothing to say overnight. The next day Li Yanchu got up at dawn to practice the Huangting Daojing. This Taoist practice played a crucial role last night, and he couldn't help but neglect it. However, until Li Yanchu withdrew from his cultivation state, the spiritual energy in the Sea of Qi did not grow much. It's really too slow. Li Yanchu is planning to go to the pharmacy to purchase the materials for refining the returning yuan pill. The weather is clear and vibrant. All evil spirits dissipate. Li Yanchu arrived at the lobby of the inn for breakfast. One benefit of living here is to manage the food. There was too much noise last night, and the landlady didn't eat a small stove with Li Yanchu. There are not many guests in the lobby either. But everyone's first reaction when they saw Li Yanchu was to bow, with a look of admiration in their eyes. A young lady who arrived early to attend the Qingyun Temple fair in Wei City quietly scrutinized Li Yanchu. "You despicable thing." The boss's voice rang out, chasing a big white cat and fighting. Li Yan was overjoyed at first sight. That is a big cat raised by the landlady, named Yuhuan, who often causes trouble in her room. "I don't know where I went last night, but I only came back early this morning and knocked over the boss's rouge box." Meow. 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 A big white cat named Yuhuan was running around in the lobby, and the landlady was chasing after her with a feather duster. Li Yanchu feasted his eyes on kanji. The scenery on the boss's chest is really moving, especially when chasing after her. Li Yanchu was a bit dizzy. That kind of mature charm is not comparable to that of a little girl. Yu reading www.uukangshu.net is simply making people's tongues dry. Sigh. The boss's beloved Pinkangfang Rouge was knocked over and she felt a bit angry. While chasing Yuhuan, she suddenly slipped and was about to fall. Unfortunately, it was right beside Li Yanchu. Li Yanchu is watching a play, admiring the charming charm of the landlady. I didn't expect the other party to almost fall. Almost subconsciously, she hugged the plump and mature landlady. "Hey! Soft and soft." Li Yanchu was slightly surprised. The landlady's face suddenly turned red and she gently broke free from Li Yanchu's embrace. "Many. Thank you very much." Li Yanchu was overjoyed. "What's wrong with this? You've been very polite since yesterday." "Moved by my hero's noble act of saving beauty, my heart secretly agrees, ready to commit with one's own life." The landlady was taken aback and spat, "Sister, I've eaten more salt than you've walked. You little brat is still teasing me." Speaking in plain language, Li Yanchu gave a fleeting glance and suddenly felt a myriad of emotions. This is the typical boss lady. Li Yanchu didn't paint a snake to add more feet. He smiled and drank kanji. It's not impossible to make a promise with one's own body, they are still very beautiful. Li Yanchu whispered to himself. The landlady, who had already turned her back and left, suddenly stiffened and her delicate earlobes felt a bit hot. Fang Qinglan stood at the door, holding an iron sword. "Miss Qinglan, early morning," Li Yanchu said. Unexpectedly, Fang Qinglan, who had admired her a lot last night, was now cold and indifferent. What's wrong with this? Li Yanchu was a bit confused. Fang Qinglan snorted lightly and turned around to leave.